You're watching Teng Tools Muscle Garage, the home of New Zealand's toughest muscle cars, hot rods and street machines. Muscle Garage is proudly brought to you by Teng Tools in association with Mount Shop, Maguire's and Niedercar. Coming up, action from the massive Repco Beach Hop 18 and Mustangs and Mopars at C.A.R.S, Pukekohe's classic and American restoration services. But first up, our mates at Maguire's sent us to check out the 80s Commodore duo of Bari and Richard Tuthill.
My dad's always had Holdens. Bathurst days, I was allowed the TV in my room, a packet of biscuits and a bag of chips, and I'd sit there the whole day and watch Bathurst, and just, it went from there. When I started working, my boss at the time had an 86 factory 5-litre Calais. Yeah, to me that was, I was going to have one of those one day, and so here we are.
It was the car that I sort of worked on as an apprentice, and with the whole Brocky thing and the following that he's done with these cars, the VK seems to be the Commodore that, the early series Commodores that everyone seems to follow, and I thought, well, I just wanted to make it a little bit extra and a bit different, but make it look pretty sharp as well,
The Commodores aren't what you'd call fresh builds. In fact, they shared the cover of NZ V8 magazine some 11 years ago, both then in blown form. What they have done, clearly, is evolve, and that's very much a reflection of the friendship, refining tastes, and a bit of healthy one-upmanship.
I wanted more power. The supercharged gig was good, but it took a lot of effort to drive. You're always looking this way and looking that way around the supercharger. And as the supercharger heated up, especially on pump fuel, your power sort of went away. So it seemed like the logical thing to do is go turbo. Research was quite easy. There was a lot of it happening on the internet. So I jumped on the bandwagon and got the overalls on and started knocking it out.
Richard's VL is now powered by a 2002 LQ4 6-litre from the LS family, backed by a Powerglide and Ford 9-inch. It's good for 620 horses at the treads with 13 pounds of boost, courtesy of the Garrett hairdryer.
So the engine is unopened, bog stock, apart from the camshaft and valve springs. So one of the goals, well, there was two goals. One was to make 600 rear wheel horsepower with it being unopened on pump gas. The next goal is to knock off the 9-second time slip. Very shortly, we're going to change the guise of the car again. New rear end going in, roll cage, drive shaft. We're going to go racing.
Okay, it's a 1986 VK Royale, New Zealand new. It started life as a one-owner Grandma's 4-cylinder 5-speed manual. It was blue and silver, but unmolested, real tidy car, perfect project car. So went through, had a goal in mind of what we needed to do. Wanted to have the big tall inlet manifold, manual, Simmons, all that carry on, In the process of building it, I already had the inlet manifold and a 6-speed manual and so forth, and then went for driving Richard's car, which had the blower on it. I thought, got to have a piece of that. So out went the manifold, out went the manual, turbo 350 went in, sourced a 671 and built up a blown engine for it. So we ended up with the blown car that it used to be 10, 12 years ago. That was pretty cool, but still wanted to have back to how I originally wanted to build it, the Group A look. So sold the blower and assembly, and the auto went and the manual went back in, and I built a stroker engine for it with the high-rise manifold, etc., and back to where it was now. So it's sort of gone a full circle with other bits and pieces and back to where I am now. So that's all right, but it's been pretty good.
The cars share plenty in common, and that's not by chance. Both are mini-tubbed, run Simmons wheels, and turn and stop a whole lot better than when they left the General's quarters.
We always spur each other on to go to the next level. It's just a continual evolution of both cars.
We'd get on the phone, and when I was building the VK, he'd be like, "Oh, you need that, and I'm like, bugger it. So in it went, you know. And when I semi-tubbed mine, and to make mine a point of difference, and then he got his going, it's like, oh, my Simmons ain't got a deep enough dish, so he went for a bigger dish and semi-tubbed his, and everything we did was, oh, you do that, I'll try and do it a bit better, and then I'll do that, and he'd do that a bit better, and yeah, now his engine bay looks way better than mine, so I have to sort that out now.
However, despite the upgrades, both cars still very much look like Holdens, and that's important.
When I get in the car, I want to go back to 1986. I like the smell, the feel. I remember the 80s vividly as a kid, and yeah, that's why it's staying like it is. Yeah, like I say, 19 years. It's been there before the kids came along. It's become a bit of a nemesis at points. It scares the crap out of me still to this day, and yeah, I look forward to the next thing.
You have these sorts of cars. They sit in your garage. You may not do anything with them for 6 months, and sometimes you hate them, sometimes you love them, but then, you know, the days that you think, oh, I hate it, you jump in it, you go for a drive, get the adrenaline going, you think, I'm glad I've still got that car, you know, and it is a real privilege to have these sorts of cars, you know, and sometimes you don't appreciate the car you have until you go somewhere and people come up to you and all they want to do is talk about it. You know, they love looking at it, and they want to hear it and drive it and so forth, and so yeah, it's good to have these sorts of cars, you know.
Right, thanks to Need a Car, it's time to check out highlights from Repco Beach Hop 18. No need to beat around the bush here. Whangamata's Repco Beach Hop is simply massive. 5 days, 1,200 plus registered vehicles, 110 retro caravans, crowd estimates well in excess of 100,000, and one very average weather forecast. Fortunately, only the latter didn't play out. Mother Nature really only having her way after Sunday's final prize giving. But looking at this lot, I'm not sure it put many people off coming anyway. Yep, she's huge all right, and that makes standing out a little bit tough.
Standing out at an event like this with just so many cars, it is a real challenge. It's a sensory overload everywhere you go, the noise, the colours, just the makes and models of cars. So I guess creativity, you don't want to be gimmicky, but you also need to have some kind of, I guess, something that draws your attention. You know, I think you really need to have the full package as far as engine bays, interiors. It's not just a shiny paint job is not going to make you stand out in this many cars.
But plenty are up for the challenge. At 18 years on, the Hop has become the event to debut your fresh car. There were a number this year and they didn't disappoint.
Yeah, it's a 1962 Holden EK panel van. It's running a 350 Chev. It's a crate engine. Yeah, I've just finished it after 4 years. I purchased it as an unfinished project. The gentleman who did the original chop and everything did a fantastic job. And basically I've taken over the project and finished it off to how I wanted it. Yeah, I've always liked oddball Holdens. I used to have an FC Holden panel van, and it's just unusual. You go to a car show and you just don't see those cars. I just like the rarity, the unusualness of the panel vans, I guess, and yeah, that's it. Always wanted to have a cool old Holden. Now I've got 3 of them. No more cars. I'm looking at a Ford next week.
While the new stuff certainly got people talking, it's very much the year-in, year-out festival regulars that give Repco Beach Hop the atmosphere other events envy.
Yeah, 16 years we've had this car. Brought as a rust bucket from Wellington 16 years ago and gradually fixed up to where it is now. Knowing what I know now, I never would have brought that car, but if I never brought that car, I wouldn't know what I know now. Been in Wellington its whole life from brand new in 67, so it required a lot of panel work, a lot of patches, and a lot of body work and paint and everything, yeah. It's running a stroked Mopar 400 out to 470 cubes. The pillarless shape really grabbed me, as well as the front headlights. Yeah, we drive this car a lot. I think we've got 50,000 miles on it. And yeah, we just love burning gas in it. 98 octane, burn lots of it. It's great.
The New Zealand karting is quite unique because obviously we've got a lot of American stuff, but there's also the sort of Pommy stuff as well, and the Aussie stuff. You know, there was New Zealand built cars here, so you might find a car that you think is American. Hang on, it's right-hand drive. It was assembled at Todd Motors in Porirua or something like that. So there is a real mix. You know, it's not just that American graffiti sort of scene that's that sort of 50s, 60s Americana. The variety is good because it's really exposure that gets you hooked on some things. You know, like if you hang around with people with American cars, you get exposed to them and you think, hey, that's cool, I want to do this, this and this. But if you hang out with a bunch of guys that have got sort of Pommy cars, or you start looking at those cars, you might think, hang on, that's cool. So it really just depends how exposed you are to the scene and how immersed in it as to where your sort of tastes go. And around here, you know, there's a bit of everything. So whatever your taste is, it's catered for.
Amazing results, even at full sight.
You're back with Teng Tools Muscle Garage, proudly brought to you by Teng Tools, in association with Mount Shop, Maguire's and C.A.R.S. As far as events go, they don't get much bigger than this one. Thanks to C.A.R.S, we're back to Repco Beach Hop 18. 18 years on, the Hop started life as a rock and roll festival, and while it still pays tribute to those roots, the cars now hog centre stage, over 1,200 of them in fact, and that's just the registered entrance. And because they're a sharing bunch, Noddy Watts and his dedicated crew take the fun and games on the road to the rest of the Coromandel Peninsula, with day trips to Goldtown, Waihi, Whitianga and Onamana. Saturday is the big one, and Whanga plays it closer to home with the Grand Parade up Port Road. And when they finally run out of blacktop, the parked convoy becomes the Maguire's Main Street Car Show. Big enough, you'd think, but get your walking shoes on and you'll discover the invasion has spread to other pockets of Whangamata, with the Pre-49 Hot Rod Show, retro caravans and the Ford crew having commandeered Williamson Park. The Sunday is a bit of a wind-down day as many prepare to make their trip home. The Hop isn't a judged show, which, given the entrant numbers, is probably a great relief to the organisers. Instead, they leave that job to the public, who select a top 10 made up of 5 cars, 2 retro caravans and 3 bikes. And if you're a regular viewer, a few of these will look very familiar to you. The overall winner is again decided by people's choice. In 2018, that honour goes to Justin Walker. He and his family making the trek out from Taranaki in this very freshly completed 64.
idea was to have it at Beach Hop last year. Had a few problems with the engine that was built in the States, had to bring it over, rebuild it here. So yeah, another story. But yeah, it's probably been on the road legal 2 weeks. So, but longest drive it had today. So when I first got it, it sort of looked all right, but as you dug deeper, everything was pretty average. The workmanship was like you'd never get it on the road in New Zealand. So yeah, I started off, just really got into it with a grinder, cut the chassis off, chopped the floor out and hit the engine mounts off with a hammer, and it all started from there. The chop was actually already done in the States, but it was, again, an average chop. So a friend of mine helped me redo it. So all the back skins around the windows have been redone and all that. So yeah, it's brave, but it makes a big difference to the car. Yeah, I wanted something that made a statement, so I think heaps of people have got a, blown big block or a chopped car or a tubbed car, but not many people have got all of it, so put it all together and made something pretty radical, I think. It's a proud moment, to get it actually going, and I take my hat off to all the friends and that helped me get it to where it is today, It was a big effort.
Okay, thanks to our mates at Mount Shop, we're shed raiding again. This week, we've got Mustangs and Mopars at Steve Sankey's Classic and American Restoration Services.
Well, this is C.A.R.S, that's short for Classic and American Restoration Services, and it's located in Pukekohe. The Classic was supposed to be for the Europeans. American is for obviously the American, but we do more American than Classics. My forte is probably more the Mustang, which is the muscle car, but lately the Mopars have been coming in. We've done a lot more of those. The Impalas have always been strong, but now the four-door Lincolns and everything are coming in. I think it's mainly the Beach Hop. Everybody wants to see that big four-door car cruising around the old Beach Hop, and I do, rather than seeing the old noisy coupe.
Much of the workshop's projects clearly come from the US of A, and that means a fair old range of starting points.
Yeah, it is always nice to work on what I call a virgin car, which means it hasn't been messed with, And if it shows up here all assembled, that's nice, but that's luxury. You don't get that when you're working on cars of this age. Chrome mouldings for a 39 Mercury, you're just not going to find them. So at least if you've got the original one, you've got something to work with and base on to tidy up.
That's not to say the guys aren't up for a challenge.
Yeah, of course. I wouldn't be here if I didn't enjoy it. Every challenge that comes through the door is my car until it goes out the door. So we're going to give it the love and attention that I would if it was my own car. And when it's in here, I look at it as my car. Well, first thing is basically you've got to work out the size of the tyre. If you're going to put a big 12-inch foot under the rear, you've got to make sure it's going to fit under the rear. So that's the first thing. You've got to get the tyres, the brakes, and all that bastard sorted. Then you want to work out what's the interior you want to run. If the floor's going to be raised to make room for the vehicle to be lowered, you got to allow so you don't jump in there and bang on the roof. So you got to work out to lower the seat bases and all that sort of thing. So if you're going to run a big 6-speed, 5-speed gearbox, then you got to raise the tunnel. Okay, so now you obviously got to make room for a center console. It's got to be lowered for the shifts to be in the right places. So yeah, there's a bit of mucking around, working around. If the customer comes into the shop and he's got a bang idea of what he wants to do, I'll do what he wants to do. Obviously, I'll try and improve a little bit if certain things are just too unrealistic for New Zealand ruling. But realistically, if the customer's got a plan, then yeah, that gives me a bit more of an idea of where he wants to go. Because at the end of the day, when it leaves my shop, the owner has to be happy, not me. So that's the most important thing, is that you've got to work with the customer and kind of get the idea of what he wants in his car. Which is why you start on rims. The bigger the rims, you got to make them fit.
C.A.R.S are well known for their Mustangs, and true to form, our visit saw that theme alive and well. That said, Ford's iconic pony car sure comes in a range of flavours, and there's also a few different approaches to building one. From the concourse restoration to the retro tech performance build, offering a bit more creative licence. Both options, however, have their own challenges.
Behind me is a 65 Mustang Fastback. We're actually sticking the brand new 2015 Coyote engine to it. Now that's never been done in the Southern Hemisphere. So that takes a lot of fitment, undoing, retrying. Obviously everything's got to fit, from everything from the starter motor to the exhaust system to the steering wheel. you know, steering shaft, column, rack, suspension, of course, back to the wheels again. Got to have those mags looking good. So yeah, you've got to try and fit. So yesterday, you could be working on the same thing you're working on today, except maybe in 3 days, you'll be able to stand back and go, that looks pretty good. And that's about what this industry is. It's just trial of error on full customs, and it can take a while, but we get there.
Steve's a fan of respecting the factory's design cues when possible, but he's also happy to enhance them if that's what the build requires. Dave Burt's GTX is a good example here. The 72 packs a pro-charged 440 big block, and yes, it's still very much a Plymouth in every sense. However, the RT Charger-inspired flip-up grille ditches the chrome for a more menacing redesign, but it does it without wandering too far from what made the car appeal to Dave in the first place. Clever. Here's the other end of the scale. You'd be brave and maybe just a little bit silly to mess with a genuine Shelby.
Yes, that car came in from the States probably about 2 years ago. A real grey pot mess, which means full of rust. It did have a good story of being stolen in the States a couple of times. But yeah, it is a genuine 67 GT500, and we have fully rebuilt that car. Unfortunately, that car is going to go and live in Scotland, which is a shame because it's a beautiful car for the public to see. But yeah.
Be it custom or by the numbers restoration, you've got to be in it for the long haul.
To start a job in this industry and then to see that car every day for 6 to 12 months, you got to have that passion all the way through. Because if you don't, when you start the car and the quality when it's finished just won't be that dream that the owner's thinking of. So yeah, if you don't enjoy it, no point doing it.
Every week, we're giving our viewers the chance to win a Teng Tools and Maguire's gift pack worth $250. Simply go to themotorhood.com and follow the Teng Tools Muscle Garage link. Plus, by entering our weekly draws, at the end of the series, one lucky viewer will win a Teng Tools 460-piece automotive toolkit, a complete Maguire's car care pack, and a $500 Mount Shop voucher. The total value of this grand prize is almost $5,000. Good luck, everyone. Teng Tools Muscle Garage was proudly brought to you by Teng Tools. Get organised. Mount Shop, undercar specialists. Maguire's, people who love cars love Maguire's. And Need a Car, the easy way to research and buy cars online.